My name is Cherie Mathieson. I am a vocal coach and a professional singer. And what I am doing is going live to discuss a couple of the questions I get asked the most as a vocal coach. And so, with that in mind, today's question is one that I've been getting asked a lot more recently, which is how long does it actually take to get better at singing? So I'm going live today on Instagram over here and Facebook and YouTube over here. So if you have any thoughts or comments or questions about anything that I'm going to chat about today, please let me know. But firstly, I am a pro singer, and as a vocal coach as well, both my personal practice, it's something that I've reflected on more so, with a bit of hindsight. You can kind of think, how long do things actually take to how long does it take for you to develop your voice? And what I've noticed is that there's this cyclical framework that just happens consistently. And it's firstly prepare, which I look at as like vocal care habits, daily vocal care habits, mindfulness around your sleep, your hydration, nutrition. There's practice, creating effective practice plans. There's polishing, which I look at as the stage that you integrate, like rehearsal or other elements to really polish the overall performance, which is the end result of the framework. And to really define how long something takes, I think it's great to start with the end in mind, which is working towards a performance, and then be able to look back and assign yourself some action steps to get where you want to go. With that in mind, from a how long time frame perspective, I notice that for me personally, it takes me about 4 to 6 weeks to really get into the trenches with a song or a couple of songs, depending on how much time I have to implement. And so if you're sort of developing a set and working on techniques and performance, you probably want to allow at least 90 days. If you have the luxury of time, maybe 6 months, or ideally a year. Like that's been my personal experience, is really focusing on practice. I've noticed improvements, whether it's, once you've got your vocal goals set, whether it's extending your range or working on a particular voice quality or an ornamentation like vibrato or riffs and trills. A good time frame is a year. And the reason I come with that is both because of my own personal experience as a singer, but also because sometimes we forget that the larynx, the vocal folds, are like any other muscle in the body. So if you use the gym analogy, and I have a background in exercise science, I used to be a gym trainer, a personal trainer, aerobics instructor. The way that I coach my clients today is really similar to how I trained my clients back in the day. And that is, we would meet in the gym, we would have a little chat about what we wanted to work on, what our goals were for the voice, aka as a singer, it would be what's coming up for you that you have to work towards. And then you might say, okay, within that, I need to strengthen my core, or I need to do this, that, and the other, get more fit, whatever your goals are. Same thing with singing. And I would have a framework that I would utilize, essentially a practice plan as it looks today, that I would share with my clients, and I still do, of a series of steps that makes sense from a physiological perspective, warming up your voice, warming up your body before you work out, vocal workouts, physical workouts, whether it's legs, upper body, abs, whatever you're doing on the day, and then a vocal warm down or a physical warm down. And then you might have some rest days for your muscles in between, or you'd certainly, depending on how hard you're working, you'd alternate, what area of your body you'd be working on. And in singing terms, that's like you might alternate the different technique focuses that you're working on, just to keep your muscles engaged, but also being rested appropriately so that you're not causing fatigue as you develop your voice, and in turn as you work out your body, because we've all been there. We've all done the workout that leaves you not being able to sit down on the toilet without wincing for 4 days because your thighs are burning, you've done too many squats. Like, you don't want to get to that point of vocal fatigue when you are practicing, but you do want to define clear goals so that your practice, the time that you give yourself to develop your voice, is effective, but also incorporating those rest days as well. So like with any other muscle in the body, depending on where you're starting, is how you might determine the frequency that you're going to spend practicing, the specifics of the practice itself. just like if you were joining the gym. You would look at maybe starting out, if you haven't done too much in the last wee while, maybe 1 to 3 times a week for say 15 and build up to 60 minutes per session. The voice is exactly the same. And so if you've got a sort of a framework like that, where you're looking after your vocal health, and because our instrument is housed in our body, the key elements for us are the same as with the physical, sleep, hydration, nutrition, making sure that your instrument isn't compromised in any way. So if you're having ongoing loss of your voice, you'd want to get that checked out. Just like a trainer at the gym would say, if you've got back problems, you really want to get clearance from your doctor. A singer, that would mean going to an ENT or seeing somebody. So you want to make sure, firstly, that you're ready to go and that your health, vocal health in particular, is really strong before you start developing your voice. Then you work out your practice plan, which is the second stage of the framework, which we've just talked about, and it's informed by what your performance or what your outcome is, your goals are for your voice. If you don't have performances coming up, I really encourage you to create your own performance opportunities, and it doesn't have to look like a stadium with 17,000 people. It can look like a video that you upload to YouTube. It can be a house concert. It can be busking if that's your thing. It can be live streaming like I'm doing right now. It can be so many different things, studio work, recording, tons of things. But if you've kind of got a moment in time that you're working towards, I just find it motivating. And I see it both myself and the people that I work with, that's what really shifts the dial. You really get a fire lit under your butt when you're working towards something. So creating regular opportunities throughout the year, making sure you've got these practice plans and you know how to polish or shine or tweak and troubleshoot once you're out of that practice phase. That polish phase is the bridge between a really confident performance and, just kind of still working out the steps of a practice plan. So it really refines it to either songs or specific techniques, and you just do the same thing over and over again so that you're polishing and refining what you've already practiced. So you've got that framework there, right? You got the framework. You're doing it between 1 and 5 times a week, depending on where you're at vocal stamina wise, depending on where you're at. I call it gig fitness. And that over 4 to 6 weeks, just like with the gym, will help you to see improvements. So at the shortest time, you really will see some great developments in your voice over a 4 to 6 week period. And then depending on what the complexities are of your goals or what you're working towards, you want to review, just like a gym program, at the end of every 4 to 6 weeks and set yourself some new goals. One of the best ways to polish and review is to video yourself performing. So even if you're not posting it anywhere, video your practices, video all your performances of any kind, and watch them back, because that's where you learn the most. And I like to encourage you to give yourself 3 things that you really loved about the performance so that it's constantly constructive through to 3 things that you know you need to work on. And then that informs what you need to do in your practice. So it's a great cyclical framework that I think really does help to be consistent with moving your vocal development forward. Some ways that you can fast track this process, of course, is changing the frequency, reviewing and reassessing regularly so that you are up leveling. You can get vocal coaching, and the learning never ends. I still have a singing teacher, and I do different deep dives depending on my time and availability or what I'm working towards. If I'm touring or gigging, I'll have to step back from the practice or polish element of my framework. I always prepare. I'm always working on the daily vocal care habits. But the focus when I'm in that season is on performance. And then when I have a bit of a break, like now, I don't have any more tours or gigs until July and then October and then summer, I will get in the trenches and really refocus my own practice and make sure that, usually reflecting on the performances that I had last, and there are plenty of videos that I can watch back, I'll look and think, oh, that's right. Whether it's a refining of a particular song, like I just keep forgetting the lyrics, still happens, even though I'm prepared, and workshop stuff. I think that's old age, but that's a whole nother story. And and really making sure that I've locked everything in for myself. So when you've got that framework that you can review and be constant and consistent with, up level with some coaching. Get yourself some coaching. If you need help, you can do, certainly in my coaching curriculum, I have like a video performance review where you can send me a video of you singing. I give you feedback, and you can use that as a coaching tool moving forward. I have got a masterclass coming up over the next couple of days that helps you also to figure out where to begin, where you are on that framework. And that is something that you can jump into. The masterclass, to sign up for that, it's free, by the way, so jump into that, is bignotesgetvotes.com/quiz-masterclass, but I'll pop the links in as well too. And the last thing is that next week, because I'm helping people to figure out where they're at, I need to make sure I can actually help you. So I have also got a relaunch of my 14-day vocal bootcamp coming up, which opens next Wednesday. And that is a focus on the first two seasons or stages of my framework of preparing, making sure you're vocally healthy and that you have really strong and solid practice plans so that you can move forward effectively into whatever the next stage might be: performance, coaching, one-on-one coaching, or polishing. And that I will chat about a little bit in the masterclass as well. But the main thing is that you get coaching to up level if that's something that you can get into right now. And if you need help from me, you like the way I roll, you can find out a bit more about that in my masterclass. But also it's going to help you to figure out where you're at. And I think that's most important. These questions that I'm looking at, how long does it take you to get better at singing, for example? These come from my artists that I've worked with, because before we start working together, I ask them to complete an artist questionnaire. And so tomorrow in the masterclass, what I'm talking about is what I'm going to share with you are the 4 must-ask questions. The 4 questions you've got to ask yourself when you're about to start on a development journey to really make sure that you're starting at the right place. And then at the end of the masterclass, you'll have a personalized roadmap of what you actually need to do to kickstart and get you going. So if you want to get into that, I'd love to see you tomorrow. I'm hosting a couple of them, so if the time doesn't suit, you can select a time that suits you better. But I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, how long it's taken you to get better at singing, and see if that aligns with the sort of exercise analogy and with my own thoughts on how to really make sure, that you know where you're going. Like, the roadmap is the most important thing. But then secondly, the frequency, figuring that out for where you're at right now and not overdoing it to vocally fatigue or definitely not injuring yourself. But then the secret is consistency. Like, just keep doing it. And I find that people stay consistent when they have something to work towards. And that is setting yourself a performance goal and creating some performance opportunities. So that is definitely, that is definitely the key. Create performance opportunities. That makes you a better singer as well too. Make sure that you have a framework that you can follow. You're welcome to borrow mine. And if you need any help with any stage of that, shout out. But yeah, pop into the masterclass tomorrow if that's of interest to you. But I'll be back tomorrow to talk as well. What's tomorrow's? Oh, that's a good one. This is one of the other questions I get asked a lot. How can I make my voice sound consistent? So we'll chat I'll share a couple of tips with you tomorrow about that as well. Have the most amazing day, and I hope to see you in the masterclass, and if not, tomorrow in the next live.